the government. For were it not for the fear it inspires, every man would swallow his neighbor alive. Rabbi Hanina ben Teradion said, if you sit together and there are no words of Torah spoken between them, then this is a session of scorners, as it said. Nor sat he in the seat of the scornful, rather than teaching of the Lord is his delight.
If you just can go down a little bit.
Yes.
But if two sit together and there are words of Torah spoken between them, then the Shekhinah abides among them, as it is said. Then they that fear the Lord spoke on one with another. And the Lord hearkened and heard, and a book of remembrance was written before him, for them that fear the Lord and that thought upon his name. Now I have no scriptural proof of the presence of the Shekhinah except among two. How do we know that even one who sits and studies Torah, the Holy One, blessed be he, fixes his reward? As it is said, though he sit alone and meditate in stillness, yet he takes a reward unto himself.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, it's very interesting. There's different ways of translating this. Some say scorners, meaning people who are sort of making fun of the Torah, but it's also another translation. It could be they're almost like you're sitting with dead people. And what is it about the Torah that sort of represents life? And I'll see if I can try to explain how I am, as of now, understanding it. First of all, we call it Torat Chaim, the Torah of life. And we do know that when Hashem created this world, the Medrash tells us that Hashem looked into the Torah itself, and from there created the world. Whatever that means, I don't really know. But what I do know, and maybe you could find different patterns in this world that seem to be going hand in hand, sort of like an algorithm of the creation of the world. But let's come back to this people sitting together and not learning. The first thing that comes to my mind is that if you're lucky enough to sit with friends and eat, which is a beautiful thing, you should not take it as something, like day to day. You should actually be very happy you're able to do this, and therefore you should learn something, because the most important thing that we have in this world is the gift of the Torah. If you didn't know, tomorrow starts Shavuot. Tomorrow evening starts Shavuot, which is the holiday that we celebrate the given, when we got the Torah, but the givening, if you could say that's not a word, when we got the Torah. And I always thought to myself, and I always thought when I was a kid, why do we have to celebrate it every year? We got the Torah once, isn't that enough? And I think this is the answer that maybe this Mishnah also is saying, that every time you speak Torah, every time a person speaks Torah and discusses Torah and understands more Torah, is as if new Torah came down to this world. In other words, every person in this world has a unique way of understanding the Torah. Only I could understand it exactly to the minute points that, like, sort of my personality, my neshama, my soul understands it too. The same would be for anyone that sits here right now. You will have a unique way of understanding the Torah, and therefore, every time you learn, you bring down more Torah. And another word that this Mishnah mentions is the Shekhinah. Shekhinah means God's presence in this world, godliness, so to say. It's a word and a concept that's very difficult to understand, because I feel like it easily could be misunderstood. You can't sort of look to the sky and say, oh, we see the Shekhinah, we don't really know. But what we do know is that when you sort of discuss Torah with people and you talk and you see something sort of lights up in that person's eyes, it's as if that person have been given sort of a direct, channel from something divine. And Torah is the only thing maybe in this world that we could actually see divinity, And quite frankly, I think it's saying, don't sort of waste the opportunity to sit together with friends. Rather, sit down and learn something. That's also why we're very careful to say words of Torah on our Shabbos meals, because Shabbos meals are at least the times where we, as a rule, get to spend time with friends and neighbors and family and so on and so forth. 1 second. It's also interesting when I'm just going to read in other in English again. It says from this verse we would know there's only about 2 people. How do we know that even one person sits and occupies himself with Torah? The Holy One, blessed is he, determines a reward for him. For he said, let the one who sits in solitude be still, for he'll have received a reward for it. I wanted to just discuss sort of the concept of reward, and I'll tell you a story. As a rule, Baruch Hashem, every Monday and Thursday in a synagogue called Adat Yeshurim, which is one of the Orthodox schools here in Stockholm, there's a minyan every Monday and Thursday. In Adat Yisrael, the other Orthodox one, Baruch Hashem, there's a minyan every day. So that's the rule. We had, and also on Kabbalat Shabbat, both of them have minyanim. And so there was one Kabbalat Shabbat when we did not have a minyan, and 2 people came, and we were only 9. And they were very disappointed when they get a minyan. And I told them, but listen, you get schar halissa. You get a reward for walking to a shul. In other words, you get rewarded for doing the right thing. And one of them really didn't understand this concept so well, and asked, "What's this thing about reward? Is that really something that we care about so much? Isn't it the moment that we care about? What's with this reward?" And I've been thinking about it ever since, and I don't know if I have a good answer, but it's something that's very interesting. When it talks about reward, as a rule, the Gemara or different books talks about the reward in the next world, not so much the reward a reward schar in this world, rather in olam haba, in the next world. In this world, we say schar mitzvah. The reward of a mitzvah is mitzvah. It's another mitzvah. In other words, one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. So in this world, we don't really know what the reward is, but it seems to be that everything we do in this world affects the next world. And he had a hard time he had a hard time like sort of grasping this and sort of like understanding it. And I realized that this is a concept they don't really talk about in the Western world so much. But we do believe that everything we do sort of accumulates together for the best of, like, for our reward. And one thing that's very important to understand is that a reward of something positive weighs much heavier. It's much heavier than something negative that we have done. So if you want to look at like what you often do to simplify is you sort of have 2 scales that are what's it called, like against each other. And in one you have the positive, the mitzvot you've done. In another one you have the things you've done that's not so good. The positive, the mitzvot, they sort of always going to weigh. They're always going to be heavier, so they're always going to win. So, but we shouldn't live our life thinking, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get a nice reward. But sometimes it could be good to sort of think of that we actually are one way or another accumulating a reward for the next world. Okay, let's continue. Weiter. Let's go onwards. So I want to move. I want to do something. I know we've been discussing very lengthy all the Mishnahs, but I wanted to come to another Mishnah. So let's go. In the next one, it says Rabbi Shimon Omer. Would someone volunteer to read this Mishnah in English or in Hebrew if you want to, of course?
Yes. Where to start? I want
by Rabbi Shimon.
Yeah.
Said.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Shimon said, if 3 have eaten at one table and have not spoken their words of Torah, it is as if they had eaten sacrifices offered to the dead, as it is said, for all tables are full of 50 vomit. When the all present is absent. But if 3 have eaten at one table and have spoken their words of Torah, it is as if they had eaten at the table of all present. Blessed be he, as it is said. And he said unto me, this is the table before the Lord.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It says in Yechezkel, "V'yadaber lavzeh shulchan asher lefnei Hashem." Okay, so this is the one that I was referring to before. That if you 3 people sit together and you don't speak words of Torah, it's like you've been giving a sacrifice to the meitim, to the dead, which obviously is a bit problematic. Does anyone have any thought why? Again, if you read Pirkei Avot, and if you read a lot of our Svarim, our holy books, and if you read a lot of the commentaries on the Chumash, on the Torah, and so on and so forth, you will notice that there's a pattern of the commentators, of the Nevi'im, of the prophets, and everyone, and the Gemara, and everyone telling us the Torah is the most important thing. I'll go even further. We say it by Shema. With the Barta Bam B'Shiftecha B'Veisecha, you should speak about these words of Torah when you sit down, when you're standing up, when you're traveling, before you go to sleep, and this is something that should be in Lo Yamash Torah. You should not this Torah should be in your mouth, Yomam V'Layla, day and night. In other words, this is something we keep coming back to. So what is it about this Torah that is so important? What do you when I hear it, I have become addicted to learning Torah. So for me, it's welcome. I also had an important meaning before, so it's always a good thing to have an important meaning. But what is about the Torah that's so important? I myself feel lucky enough to have become sort of addicted to learning Torah. It's something that I very much enjoy doing, and I try to do it as much as I can. But if you don't have the relationship with the Torah, do you feel now that we are sort of, as I say in Yiddish, stelling, but we're pushing for people to learn Torah? Do you relate to it? It's an open question. I would love for someone to be brave enough to sort of share what they feel, because I can imagine that if you don't have the tools always to sort of open any book and within the book start to learn it, it could feel something that it's a little bit foreign for you. Is this something that most of you would relate to, or is this something that feels foreign even? Would anyone be brave enough to share their thoughts? Otherwise, I can share mine. But if someone has, do you even understand my question? No one understands my question. I can't see you even, so I'm not sure if I only see myself. Let me 1 sec. View side by side gallery. Here you are. Is there anyone who's brave enough to sort of speak about and discuss your relationship with learning Torah? Is this something that most people in here do, or is this you're learning every week, or do you have a personal relationship with learning?
Can I ask for something?
Yes, please.
Thank you. What is the meaning of when the all present is absent? What can you put some words on to explain a little bit in the perspective of the point?
So the all present, that Hashem has God has many different names. And we call him Hamakom, which means the place. And in other words, the place is like the world that we live in, I guess. And Hashem is creating this world, and only because of Hashem, this world is. Without Hashem creating this world, there would be nothing. And I'll just say something that we say by a funeral. Everyone should be healthy, and we should all live till we're 120. But a levaya, we say Hamakom Yenachem Otchem. May the omnipresent, may the all-present, what's it called? Sorry, I realize I'm very tired. I'm missing a lot of words. And comfort you in your loss. So if you would do something that would not invite that, it's as if you're dead. I have to be honest, it's very difficult for me to to explain what this is saying, because it's saying it's as if there's soa, which is filth, and I guess if nothing else, like a filthy place is not a place where you would sort of think about God. For instance, we're not allowed to learn Torah in a bathroom, and we're not allowed to think about Torah even in a bathroom, and so on and so forth. But what I think it's saying is more that like everything you do has the potential of becoming something very spiritual. And by you sitting and eating, if you invite that spirituality by learning Torah, you have sort of uplifted it to something bigger. It's an extreme way of saying you should not take it lightly. You should realize you have the potential of this, which seems like a day-to-day thing, could become something lofty. And I think that is the key to understanding all of this. That's what we have. We have those tools. Okay, I think Cecilia was first, and then
I have been thinking of, I have a lot in my brain. I'm thinking a lot, but I have learned that it's important to speak to tell people and say and tell them what I'm thinking. So when you're sitting together, it's much easier if you speak the words, the things you have, the thoughts you have.
Yeah.
To express yourself and to get a response. So this will be, you will be enriched in that way.
And it's also, what you're saying is very true. Also the way, there's a concept of learning bechavruta, that you learn one-on-one, two people learn together. And especially when it comes to Gemara, the Talmud, and the way the Talmud is written, it sort of invites people to start discussions. And that's also what you do when you speak words of Torah, because for most people who like to think, at least, it triggers something. And that leads to another discussion, and then all of a sudden you have a table that is alive. But I think we could also understand it on that very basic level. It makes exactly what you're saying. It makes people talk, it makes people discuss, and you get a different atmosphere. You know, like if people just sit, and it's like, even if it's like, how do you say, in Swedish you can say stel stämning, like a little bit stiff. Yeah. Sometimes you need an icebreaker, you need something to get everything going, and this really helps. And believe me, I have a lot of experience, Baruch Hashem, having a lot of people at my Shabbos table and by my table in general, and it's incredible to see that, as a rule, everyone likes a discussion. Some people like certain things more than like certain like aspects more than other, but like something happens when people engage, and it's very true. The entire place comes alive, and the energy in the room is different. And that energy, I'm going to say something a little bit maybe daring, I'll say it anyway. You know, like if a person that is angry comes into the room, even if that person is completely quiet, you could feel it. You know, you could feel that the energy in the room is negative, and it sort of takes energy. The same thing, if someone comes in and is very happy, that's like it spreads. The same thing as a yawn spreads. You know, if one person yawns, everyone else starts yawning. But so to hear, when you start engaging and start speaking, the room comes alive. And maybe that's one of the few times when you can feel like an energy that is there. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the Shekhinah or not, but at least a positive energy. Okay, Daniel Samarai wanted to say something. Please. You're still muted, so you have to unmute yourself. It's not so easy. There you go.
Yes. Now, I think it's a treasure that we have with the Torah. I'm thinking when we read something, we awake certain thoughts, and for me, reading for example, reading the parsha or reflections or summaries of it, it gives us some type of we get to learn things from the passages or from the text. It can be ethics or so on, which we don't really get in another way. Like for example, if we are working, we are dealing with we are problem solving. If we're reading the news, we are reading about what's happening in the world, or so on. But the Torah gives us a unique unique, like maybe storytelling that between the sentences and also in the sentences there are messages of different kinds that we can take out, and that I think is enriching and yeah, enriching, and maybe in that way it's a unique source that you don't have in another way.
Yeah, I very much agree. I want to quote, I keep quoting the same thing, so it becomes a little bit, but I'll do it anyway. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch was the rabbi in Frankfurt. He says beautifully that some people might think they open the Torah to understand Hashem. It says like that's not true. We can't. We open the Torah to understand ourselves. In other words, every time you learn Torah, I would argue that you understand more about yourself, and you sort of continue the journey onwards of becoming more of yourself. You know, like it's enriching. Like we all have so much potential within us. If we only knew how much potential we have, but for some reason the Torah could sort of unlock this. And I'll tell you one thing that is incredible. If you really engage in it, what happens is, even though, like Cecilia said, we should not only think, but what happens is the Torah sort of like start taking over inside of your head, and you start thinking about different things all the time, and you can sort of see things that happens in your day-to-day life that will make you understand the Torah even more. It becomes like a wholesome picture, which is a beautiful thing, because it's like I had like this Shabbat, which was a beautiful Shabbat. It was the Pirkei, if you know what that is, a big football tournament. It was the first time for me to be part of a football tournament. I was never into sports so much, but two of my kids were playing. We had a beautiful Shabbat. But this Shabbat, there was two girls from a high school here in Stockholm that had been promised to come to one of our Shabbat services, which I didn't know. And they've been there patiently waiting for the whole service, not understanding anything. And afterwards, they wanted to ask, they had been promised to be able to ask me some questions. I said, of course. And they asked one question, and I think this could be maybe something I want to share now. And they said, like, what is like the most, I don't know, they said, like, what is the most important religious thing that you do? And I told them, listen, it's not one thing. I said, it's life. For me, everything is religious. Everything that I do is religious. Everything has a meaning. Everything sort of could become something much bigger. And everything is part of the broader and the bigger picture. And so too is this, something that we would think is so primal to eat. You know, everyone has to eat. If we don't eat, we know what happens. Like, eventually you will die. But if not that, you become cranky, you become sours, you become like not so nice. So eating something that we have to do. So even that, the most primal thing, drinking and eating, is something that we can uplift. Okay, let's go weiter. Let's continue. Let's move on. I'm doing a coup, and we're gonna continue on the fourth one. Rabbi Hanina ben what's the name? Chachinai, what a name. Okay, would someone like to read this short but very interesting Mishnah? And this is where we're going to end. We're going to end with the discussion of this Mishnah and then say Chag Sameach. Okay, would someone, okay, please, Yatta, you would like to read?
Yes.
Very nice.
Rabbi Hanina ben Hakinai said, one who wakes up at night or walks on the way alone and turn his heart to idle matters, behold, this man is mortally guilty.
Okay, so this is very interesting. So someone who wakes up at night or is not sleeping and does not take that opportunity to do something important, instead just waste his time, you know, that person is not considered to be, like in Hebrew says, he bears guilt for his soul, you know, he's guilty for his soul not developing, sort of. And most commentaries on this Mishnah says, if it doesn't take the opportunity to learn Torah at night, it's as if it's wasting his time. So why should we learn Torah at night? First of all, for some reason, the night has a potential of a lot of spirituality. But anytime you have the potential of something kadosh, something very holy, you have the potential of something less holy. You know, it's a klal, it's a rule that kedusha attracts tuma. Something kadosh, something holy attracts something not pure. So staying up by night and not doing something that will protect you from the tuma of the sort of things that are not so good that could happen at night, that's wasting your time and all of that. It's putting yourself in sort of in a dangerous place, even the Torah says. The Mishnah says. But and this is something that there's also like this cloud, this rule is going to be true anywhere. I'll give another example. Technology. I was just saying that it's that I'm not such a big fan of computers. Like, of course I am. Computers, we have to have computers. We write emails, we communicate, you can find information, but everyone knows that a computer could also be something that can be used for terrible things. Social media today could be used for fantastic things. You could have people spreading beautiful messages of Torah. You could keep in contact with your friends all over the world, but it could also make people be able to bully each other. It could also make people who should not talk to each other be able to talk to each other, and so on and so forth. But everyone knows that, again, something that has the highest potential could also make us fall terribly. So too, staying up at night and wasting the night. Either sleep or do something productive. What's productive? Nothing is more productive than learning Torah. When you learn in yeshiva, you have like 3 starim. You have 3 times a day that you learn. You have the morning seder, you have like where you learn in the morning, and then you have the afternoon seder where you learn after lunch, and then you have the night seder where you learn at night. In other words, you learn the whole day, which is very interesting. But it's always been said that nighttime is a very apropos time to learn a little bit extra and sort of take advantage of trying to be part of sort of fixing yourself and maybe even this world, and that's also what we're doing now on Shavuot. When we stay up the whole night and we learn the whole night also to be mitaken, to fix that when we got the Torah was so overwhelming that we fell asleep, or even some say we died. So we stay up the whole night to sort of be mitaken, that to fix it, to show that we really wanted to stay up and want to be up all night just to learn and get the Torah again. And it says we have and someone who travels alone on the road but turns his head to idleness, indeed he bears guilt for his soul. So again, these are talking about 2 times that has potential of being dangerous. That's something that I have in common. Again, we say tfilat derech. We say a prayer that is special for traveling, the wayfarer's prayer, which is a beautiful translation. We say when we travel, because when you travel, you are exposed to new places, you're exposed to new things, to new stresses, and so on and so forth. It's not only that it could be dangerous potentially to travel in a machine, it could also be that you are sort of putting yourself at risk. And at those times are the times when you really should understand that you should learn Torah. I'll give an example that happened to me. When me and my wife, my family, when we used to live in Israel, we used to come back here to Sweden in the summer often. Obviously, it's very nice to be here with family. Now I'm lucky enough to live here again. But when we flew back, we're always trying to find the best flights and the cheapest flights. Of course, you don't have so much money when you learn in Kollel. So Norwegian nowadays have direct flights. We didn't have it back in the day, and we found a very good flight with Air Baltic, which nowadays is a pretty decent airline. But then, this was maybe 8 years ago, the flight from Stockholm to Riga, or wherever it was on a plane that I realized as we were boarding was at least 40 years old. Okay, it was a very, very old plane. And I don't get nervous when I fly, but this time I was very nervous. I was really nervous. Like the engines looked like I never seen engines like that. I only in hindsight realized how old it was when I saw that the engines must have come from almost like the 70s. Anyhow, so that flight was only an hour. I was learning Torah in a way that I never learned Torah before because I was scared. But I realized that learning Torah protects me. Does that mean that learning Torah, you can expose yourself to any dangers? Of course not. Was it a little bit silly that I was so all of a sudden had like the best learning of my life because I was scared? Yes. But at least I understood, okay, the Torah could protect me. It doesn't always protect you like at this second, but what it does, it sort of gives you a thicker skin. It makes you understand yourself more. It makes you understand and be able to be exposed to this world more. This world is a physical world, but we are trying very hard to be spiritual beings. A very difficult thing. We are in a physical reality. We're a spiritual being trapped inside of a physical body, and this is sort of like what we struggle with from day to day. And the Torah helps us become a little more spiritual, and it makes us feel a little bit better about ourselves. It makes ourselves understand the journey, the spiritual journey of this life. And I think really that is what this is talking about. You have to understand that we are spiritual at nature. We are a soul. We are our neshama. Our neshama has been put in this world inside of this body, and the Torah connects us to the spirituality and the reality of the spirituality. And you can start seeing it. The more you learn, you start seeing that there is a spiritual reality. There are different times when you are more exposed to it, when you can like sort of sense it. And I think the learning Torah sort of adjusts your, how do you say, your antennas to pick up on it. I really think that's what it's trying to say. The Torah could protect you, but the Torah will build you as a person, exactly like what was it Daniel said. And the Torah will build us. It will build us to become better versions of ourselves, and therefore being able to cope with this world, but also being able to cope with our friends and family. And whatever this world sort of throws at us. And I think that's the key. And I think that's a very wholesome and nice way of thinking of Torah. It makes us become just a little bit better. We just have to struggle with it. You know, we say we have to be amelim b'Torah. Amelut means that you work hard. Like Torah is not easy. Torah is something that you have to acquire. It's not given for free. You have to really, it is, but it isn't. You have to really fight to understand it. But once you start sort of getting addicted to it, you'll see that you'll never have a dull moment again in your entire life. Now I'm trying to sell you the Torah, but it's true. You really, once you really get into it, it becomes addictive. And that's one of the few things that maybe it's a good thing to be addicted to. I'm a little bit early, but that's all I have. That's all the fuel I have in me. Does anyone have any comments, any questions? Are you psyched to receive the Torah? Yes, Justin.
Yes, thank you. I have one question.
Please.
We saw before in the piece before that there was a comment on three men eating together, not reading. Yeah. And it comes a lot of Mishnayot, and I don't remember right now what I've been reading like yesterday or last week that was about studying alone or studying together. And is it really so that we always should aim to study together? Is it really so that if you study alone, you waste the time actually?
So, I first of all, I think it's a very, very good question, because there's something very geschmack. There's something very nice about learning alone. There's something very pleasant about it. Something very nice about sitting and thinking for yourself and thinking and coming up with some what's it called? Some nice things, like sort of you feel good about, like sort of thinking about things. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't challenge you as much. It's difficult to challenge yourself. When you have someone else and you speak it out, that person could challenge you. And not only that, you also hear how you're thinking. And you also hear how difficult it is sometimes to explain your own thoughts. It's not easy. So by learning together, it becomes much more and a much higher level. And yes, we should very much try to push ourselves to learn together, because if nothing else, just learning by yourself can make you not really see mistakes that you do, or like see that you're taking a wrong path, or sort of say. So learning together forces us to really think it over and really have like good developed thoughts. That would be my answer.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not always easy. Like learning b'chavrusa, learning together, it's challenging. It's a give and take. It's like any relationship. Relationships are not easy. like you become very close with your chavruta, and like it's very difficult to find a good match. You have to be very open and very humble that like not everyone are fit to learn together. It's not, sometimes it's good if you both on the same level. Sometimes it's better if one is on a higher level, and so on and so forth. But what it has to be is you get challenged, and you have to feel like you sort of also are trying to understand something. I'll tell you the first time, I think the first time my father came to visit me in one of the Bet Midrash, in the Bet Midrash, in the study hall that I was learning in, he was shocked how loud it was. And how people like screaming at each other. Almost. Like you could almost get feisty, you almost get, but that is because you're trying to understand emet, you're trying to understand truth. And you're not trying to win an argument. If you're trying to win an argument, you're not learning. If you both together are trying to challenge each other to understand what's the most emet, what's the most true, then you're learning. And that could lead to you really, really like arguing it out and really like starting to almost fight over a Torah. And some people like sort of get thrown off because sometimes with some like you could be like you almost sound aggressive, chas v'shalom. You're not, but it's like the Torah, we say Torah or the Torah is a fire. So but learning together is something we really should do, and you should not do what I'm doing now, just like babbling. You should rather learn together. Like you hear me, like unfortunately once I get going I have a hard time stopping, but really it's better to challenge each other in hearing each other out. It's very important to listen to people. Oh, sorry, someone is screaming on the street. Yeah, thank you. Any other comments or challenges? If not, I would like to take this opportunity to say that we maybe stopping a little bit early today. I'm giving you some a little bit shorter of a share, but I have a good reasons. I have to go and help out with my beautiful kids. And my mother-in-law is coming tomorrow, so the house has to be clean, which is also very important. And I'm visiting for Shavuot. And Shavuot, just last thing, like think about how Shavuot is a very good time to learn a little bit extra. And think about when you are learning, you are bringing down unique Torah to this world, and that's a very special thing. You're being mechadish Torah. You're creating, so to say, new Torah in this world. That's something that we all have the koach. We all have the strength and capability of doing, and that's something that you should all do tomorrow on Shavuot when you sit and learn, receive the Torah for what is it, the 3,000 and something time. I don't really remember how many times. Thank you so much for hearing me be a little bit more over the place than usual, but again, that happens. Please challenge me another time. It's good to see all of you, and please have a Chag Shavuot Sameach and a Shabbat Shalom, which comes afterwards. Don't forget to do Erev Tavshilin, where you take 2 cooked items, 1 baked item and 1 cooked item, and you say a special bracha in order that you could prepare on Chag, on Yontef, for Shabbat. The good thing to do. Every siddur has it. Don't forget to do it. Otherwise, as a rule, the rabbi does it too, but you should really do it so you can have a beautiful Yontef and a beautiful Shabbat. Enjoy this long spiritual Chag and Shabbat, and all the best to all of you. And Ahmed, so thank you so much for your help. And I'm sorry that I was late, and I'm sorry that I'm